went beast mode today, up 17% at one point, and I actually closed out all of my Tesla calls, all my September, all of my May calls, and I actually had my best year-to-date realized profit with $46,747. And in this video, we're going to be going over all of the Tesla positions that we ended up closing out. We're going to be going over why we thought that Tesla was going to push back up into this $190 level. Now, I was getting ragged on pretty hard about this harmonic indicator and this potential move that we could have seen before earnings when we were talking about this all the way back up to 190. But at the end of the day, guys, this is why we stick to our plan. At the end of the day, when the world switches, when everyone flips over, when everyone finally is, even the people that I saw that were like the biggest Tesla bulls, I'm not even the biggest Tesla bull, but people I've seen who have really been following for years and years and years, when they finally flip, we finally see the full switch. We've been talking about this harmonic indicator. We know historically there's a 78% success rating, and we know that this harmonic setup basically occurs when the stock is in a very drastic sell-off. Now, of course, this harmonic indicator is not the reason that the stock ended up bouncing. We know that fundamentally, we've been talking about this for weeks. If you guys want to go back and watch all the videos, we had one of our fundamental Tesla videos on X that got over 100,000 views, talking about literally the whole FSD roadmap, everything that actually is being laid out at this point. And, that is fundamentally what's pushing the stock. But the fact that we held into this position is very, very important. When everybody was telling us that we should cut, when everybody was saying that we are stupid, we knew that we had to hold to our stop loss of at least $137. Because as a pattern trader, somebody who is looking not at the fundamentals of the market, not even looking at interest rates, nothing. I don't literally care about anything. I focus only on patterns, and I focus on taking appropriate position sizing, and then I allow that to happen over and over and over across thousands and thousands and thousands of trades, because that's how trading like a professional works. You have to realize that this isn't going to just happen overnight. For instance, right now we have a $10,000 challenge, and within our first month of me starting with $10,000 and swinging, we're actually down $400. So you have to realize that this is not something that's going to happen overnight. The law of probabilities is something that you have to understand and something that you have to accept, and that long term, you have to realize that your ability to stick to your plan through thick, through thin, when the stock market is doing absolutely nothing but going up and you look like a freaking genius, or in my case, like back in January, where I looked like an absolute moron with only a 56% win rate and losing $34,000. This is what makes a great trader. This is what makes a great investor. And in my opinion, this is what makes a great man or a great individual in general, is the ability to do their own research, to take calculated risk, not go ahead and over leverage themselves into oblivion, hoping that this is going to be the one time that they finally make it, but to take calculated risk and to go out and do it day in and day out. And at the end of the day, I was totally cool with losing all of the money that we put up on these positions. I was fine with that. And I had baked that into my risk analysis from the very beginning. So let's talk now about the actual positions that I ended up taking on Tesla. Now, two positions were taken in the short term, which was 517 170 calls and 517 $175 calls. These positions, you guys can see here in our executions, were taken a while ago, about 15 days ago on 4/15 at 10 a.m. And you can see I filled here for a price of $9.30. So this is when we were trading back here all the way before that drastic sell-off. And the reason that we took that position is because we knew that about 80% of the time, price was going to move our way back up to $190. And I figured to myself that what I wanted to do was start a position here in case price pushed its way back up to 190. But if we saw this drastic sell-off into earnings, which obviously that's what occurred, that I would be able to either average down on my 175 calls, or I would be able to open up another position. So obviously, as price was selling off, I held on to this trade, but I still decided that I wanted to actually have more exposure to Tesla in the short term to the upside. And so that's when I opened up the 170 calls. So we have the 175s and the 170 calls. Then even longer ago, I think this is back in the beginning of April, actually, here on March 7th is actually when I entered this position. So back on March 7th, this is where I entered these leap options. And the one thing that I will say that really does upset me is that when I entered these leaps, I was wanting to average down when we were sitting around 140, but I had averaged down so much on and gotten my 170s for May and my 175s that I felt that it would be a little risky averaging down here. And so instead, I was poising myself, having capital on the side in case we saw a break, after earnings down to $100, and I wanted to go acquire shares long term and get a better average on my long term shares, which didn't happen. We saw price just completely bounce. And at this point today, I decided to cover this, close out my position, close out all of my Tesla besides my long-term shares that I currently have. And my reasoning for that is because I think that short term, there's a chance that we could see a potential rejection. Because remember, these harmonic patterns are not reversals of trend. These harmonic patterns happen basically when a stock is in a massive impulse down, then we get a harmonic bounce, and then usually a further lower low. Now, I don't think that Tesla is going to make a lower low. I think fundamentally that this is the bottom. But something that I wouldn't be surprised about is over the next couple of days, if we were to see Tesla continue to push up into this $200 range before rejecting and maybe moving its way back down into the 170s, which would end up forming an inverse head and shoulders setting up here, where the left shoulder is formed here with our neckline up at 200, followed by a lower low or the head pushing back up to 200, and then the potential retracement to match this old left shoulder, in this case, fill the gap to 170, and then the potential move back up to 200, and maybe, just maybe, potentially back up to $240. And so at this point, if Tesla continues to run, I'm totally cool. I have my long-term shares, and I will be happy with that. But if that doesn't happen, if we see Tesla actually come back to reject to fill this gap, which I think will happen because there is a lot of long-term, we're talking about like big hedge funds, big money who want Tesla long-term, but just have not been able to get in because we've rocketed so much. And so, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of pullback since we're up 43% in just 7 days. I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla pulled back into the 170s. We can get ourselves a better entry. If you guys want to trade with me each and every single day, get access to all of my trades, real time, swing trading, day trading, it doesn't matter. Our whole system is focused on keeping things as simple as possible, having you be in front of the computer as little as possible, especially since 80% of you guys work full time. So there's no reason to be sitting there and trying to trade each and every single day, making this more complicated because it doesn't have to be. You can see that we have a 64% win rate. And what makes us so solid is the fact that we focus on very simple indicators and just sticking to our plan with very reasonably sized bets. So if you want to trade with us every day, go check out the link in the description. I'll see you next time.